the news every week. Walk-offs, strikeouts, who's making a name? Who's in the clutch and who's taking the blame? Loanstar, Halo, fucking baseball, here we go. Big hats, bad calls, who's gonna rise and who's gonna fall?
How's it going, everybody? And welcome to this episode of the Loanstar Halo Morning Podcast. My name is Fernando, joined here by Todd. We're doing something we haven't done. I don't think we've ever done a live show together that is a podcast. We were going to do it yesterday. Obviously, the end of the Braves game, you doing the post-game show and all that kind of factored into Todd messaging me and saying, hey, let's do it in the morning. So we're here on 4th of July. Grab some hot dogs, even though it's 9 in the morning over there in California.
Shove some wieners down your throat.
Yeah, like the real American hero, Joey Chestnut.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still watch the hot dog eating contest, or has it kind of lost its luster now that Joey Chestnut wins literally every year?
Let me just tell you, I haven't watched since Sports Center was a thing, so that was like 10 years ago.
This is news to me. I thought Sports Center was still a thing.
No.
I don't watch a lot of ESPN anymore. Look,
Well, there you go.
in the early ESPN days, we all watched it, right? That's what there was. It was Sports Center. You know, did the Angels win? You look at the little score bug on the bottom. You look for the 4 seconds they talked about, hey, Vladimir Guerrero hit a home run. Hooray. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And you were like, hell yeah, dude, they talked about the Angels today. And nowadays, it's like, why would I want to watch Sports Center? It has almost nothing to do with actual highlights of sports. It's just, hey, we're going to talk about this pointless ass story that you really don't care about.
Yeah, it's lost its luster. That's like why I make those little reels with the old Sports Center music. It brings back the vibes of the good old days.
Yeah. I've been seeing that you've been doing that lately. So we haven't talked about that specifically, but I am a fan of it. I think it's cool and, get some engagement. So good on you, mate.
Thank you. I mean, it's sort of the thing too, where if you, I'm sorry, my voice is shot, but if you watch if you were a fan of baseball tonight and all that stuff, it all comes to an end after the end of this year. And you thought they didn't talk baseball already on ESPN, man, it's gonna be a thing of the past. Tumbleweeds, baby.
Yeah, honestly, it's better like that. I mean, whatever. Every time I've watched ESPN and they talked about baseball, like Stephen A. Smith, I know you're a big fan.
Oh, huge.
You love Stephen A. Smith. He is notorious for having the worst baseball takes of all time.
Yeah.
I know we don't talk about number 17 anymore, but I'm sure you remember those comments, and it's just like, bro, shut up. Like you don't know about baseball. You know what? That's okay. You don't need to know about every sport. I don't know. I digress. But yeah, if you're whatever you got going on today, welcome to the show. Happy 4th of July, all that fun stuff. Get yourself some hot dogs, go to the barbecue, whatever the case is. How's the weather looking like over there?
It's pretty chill today. It's about mid-80s today, so it's not a cloud in the sky.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, over here, the humidity is super high. There was a chance of rain all day, and I guess now that's just moved to a couple hours. So I think it's supposed to rain from like 2 to 6, so just enough time to ruin people's barbecuing plans. But yes, so that's the weather out here in the Lone Star State. Just like how Mike Trout used to do his little weather videos. I'm sure you remember those.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just kind of fell off. So welcome in, guys. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the Angels. I know we kind of do that in all the episodes, but obviously we haven't done the Lone Star Halo show together in quite a few weeks. I went on vacation, went to Alaska, but I'm back. And I don't want to say that too much has changed. The Angels were 500, flirting with 500 when I went on vacation. I come back, they're still at 500. Todd, is today the day they get over 100, or are you just not going to count your chickens before they hatch because you know this team?
Um, I was counting on them to get over 500 before we get back to the homestand. So I can't give you a solid answer. Like my voice right now, it's 50-50. I think the Angels are 50-50 for today with Hendricks on the mound. But I do have I have a sneaky feeling they're going to somehow do the Rally Chris special. And if they lose today, they're going to win the next two to get to that magical spot. But I don't know what to do, Fernando. Like, I don't know if we should do some sort of special show on the post game or a special live with me and you or whoever to get over 500. Because for this team, it's such a monumental accomplishment if we get there. And it's not saying much for the organization, but to see where this team has come and to see the talent that we have to possibly get there. Because, I mean, there's something different I mentioned in the post game the other day, which was, anyone can flirt with 500. We've seen it before a couple years ago, Fernando, where we were like 500 for like 60 days.
That was what, 2023?
Yeah. And eventually you will have other teams, it's cool for a minute that you're 500 because right now they're bunched with 7 other teams. However, when those teams will eventually start winning, you start getting passed up and then 500 isn't cool anymore. So I think at some point, if we want to contend, we got to get away from the 500 mistress and move on to something better.
Do you see Robert's comment that it sounds like you've been sucking at some glizzies?
Yes. It's okay.
Yeah, that's funny. It sounds. You know what you need to do? You need to grab some hot boiling water, put some hot dogs in it, and then drink the water.
Oh, put like a straw through the hot dog and sip it out like that, or
Yep. The true Dodger fan special.
Well, I've got the Theraflu going, so we'll see how that goes. Piping hot.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the Angels are almost suffering the same fate that they did in 2023, right? The difference is that was a team that was supposed to contend, right? We've said that before, and we'll say it again. This team didn't come into this season looking to make the playoffs. Obviously, that's always the goal. But at this point, we just wanted this team to be competitive. You and I said it. Rob said it. James said it. Everyone in the network said that we want this team to make it to August and hopefully September and still be playing meaningful baseball games. The way I see it right now, that is a chance. But this team still needs to take the next step. Now, it's impressive that they are even playing competitive games right now. I mean, think about it. We have Lamont Wade Jr. playing the bulk of the games in the outfield right now. Mike Trout hasn't sniffed the outfield in almost 2 months. He's strictly DHing right now. And it's not even like he's producing like an MVP level Mike Trout was at DH. I mean, he's hit like 3 home runs in like 30 days or something like that, which isn't great for a DH. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whatever, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt right now. He did actually leg out a double a couple of games ago. That was reassuring. But also on the same breath, I really don't want Mike Trout to get injured because then what? You already got late night Lamont out there. What's going to happen if Trout gets hurt again? Who's going to play center field? Rally Chris? You know?
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Trout. Let's just hope that he can continue to stay healthy. The fact that he was even in the consideration to be an All-Star game starter, with all respect to Trout, kind of shows you it is a popularity contest. We've known that. That's not a hot take. There's been some years where Trout's got in and he was our only representative, and personally, I was kind of upset about it. 2017, Trout was hurt during the All-Star break. He was in Inland Empire playing for the 66ers. So that year, technically, the Angels didn't have an All-Star game representative. So there's been a couple of other years where he's been our only representative, and I've been upset about it because there's other guys who deserved it. In 2017, I think Andrelton Simmons should have gotten in there. The guy never got in to the All-Star game, unfortunately, which, in my opinion, was a bit of a tragedy in itself. But if Trout is our lone representative this year, I think I'll be a little more upset than I was in 2017 because there's other guys who are younger, who have something to prove, who are playing with that chip on their shoulder. They've stayed healthy, and I want them to get an opportunity. Hell, I'd rather Kenley Jansen get in and be our only representative right now than Trout. No disrespect to Trout, but if he gets in, it's just because of the name on his back.
Yeah, that's a problem too. Everyone associates the Angels with Trout. And so like they did back in the day, it was Vladimir Guerrero's team. But this one, it's more Trout than anything, especially with Otani gone. So yeah, it sucks because if I think the Angels would have maybe one or two other guys and not Trout in there if this was strictly picked by the MLB. But when you have the fans vote, whoever is the last person on their mind, like you can go to the Angel Stadium and no offense, but get a bunch of casuals, whether male or female. So I'm not singling out the female. There's a lot of male casuals too. But if you bring casuals that only go once or twice a year, they get tickets from their brokers at work. That you ask them, hey man, who's your favorite player? Oh, Mike Trout, of course, Mike Trout. And we had that last year where he didn't even play, and I heard some fans sitting behind us saying, hey, where's Mike Trout? It's like, well, dude's been gone all year. But that's the casual fan, dude, and that's why he'll forever be picked in the All-Star game. Dude could have like 2 home runs right now, and he'll be a starter almost.
Man, everyone is grilling your voice and calling you the Glizzy King. Rob started it, now it keeps on going. Yeah, like I said, over the last 15-ish years, it has been Trout's team on paper, right? I mean, even when Otani was here, Trout had near the end when Otani actually became Otani, and I just realized I said his name, number 17. It was still Trout's team because it was 2021 where number 17 really started to, turn into what he is today. And objectively, this is the last nice thing I'll say about him today. When he is healthy, he's the most athletic and gifted player in baseball. That's not a hot take. That's what it is. So we never fully got to see a year where Trout and number 17 were both healthy together, both at the peak of their game, playing good baseball together. And people still considered it Trout's team, right? Number 17 was just kind of there. The last year or two, because Trout was hurt, it was like, oh, it's finally number 17's team. And then obviously he dipped to the – what the hell? Oh, sorry, my mom's calling me. He dipped into another LA team. So all that to say that since then, Trout kind of got knocked off that pedestal, right? He is no longer the only guy. And now we're kind of trying to find out what's life going to be after Trout, right? Who's going to be that next phase? Now, Trout's not dead. He's still on the team. But as he starts to slowly work his way to the twilight of his career, we need that next guy. We need that next face. We need the guy with the it factor because Trout's a good hitter, but he never had the it factor, right?
Yeah.
Vince and I talked about it on the show that him and I just recorded. Go check that out if you haven't already checked out the Halo Hot Take Hoedown this week. But yeah, in your opinion, has Trout ever had that it factor like guys like Neto already showing to have? Hell, even Christian Moore is starting to show that he has the it factor. He's clutch. He brings that energy. He always looks like he wants to be there. They're both having fun. And, Logan O'Hoppe to an extent has it too.
I won't mention who said it, but I'm not taking credit for it. But at first, when I was told this comment, it was actually 3 years ago. And a buddy of mine said that Mike Trout reminds him of a stat patter. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. I think that's a pretty stupid comment. And he's like, no, for real. He goes, he can't come up clutch. He hits home runs when it's there, but he drives in RBIs. He goes, and that's where I got my mindset from. Man, when's the last time Mike Trout's won you a game? When's the last time where you were at the stadium and you're throwing your hat in the air, you're jumping up and down, high-fiving someone because he walked us off? You're already seeing more walk-offs or more big hits from that young core you just described. And there's more to come with them. I don't have the faith that Trout's going to be that guy anymore. I think he could be a very, very good contributor to this lineup, especially, look, the pressure has always been on Trout to be the guy, but he's never led. He's never even led by example because if you got to lead by example, you got to be on the field. And besides that whole Pujols move that he did with the arrow against Fernando Rodney, I think guys like Neto or Hoppy or even Christian Moore at some point, if they take the mantle of leader, if it's given to them, if they absorb it, I think that's better for the team, because then you have Mike Trout, the superstar there, that, hey, if he's willing to listen to a youngster, if Neto's got more balls to fire up this team and yell at players, then let's do it. If he's the player representative, I'd rather have someone that is down for the cause, that is down to chew somebody out, that is down to bring somebody up and be that leader on and off the field, than someone that's just like, well, I'm Mike Trout, I don't do interviews. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to, I hit a home run. If I strike out, I just walk back to the dugout with my head down. I don't try to fire anybody up. It's time that this team has a new look, and I think it's getting there. I think we're starting to paint the picture of what possibly this team could be.
Yeah. This year has already been better than last year. Honestly, even if, shit literally hits the fan right now, after the All-Star game, the Angels just sputter and they finish the year in last place. I can already, and I'm knocking on wood right now so that doesn't happen. But what I'm saying is this year we have seen some good baseball at stretches. The fact that we have maybe one or two things to complain about a week is a positive thing. And most of the time it's like managerial choices, right? It's Ray Montgomery, why are you doing that? Ron Washington, why are you doing that? So the good news is that we have seen those young guys take a step forward. Now, their numbers aren't exactly there where we want them to be just yet. Logan O'Hoppe has kind of started to sputter. Nolan Shanuel, when we were recording on Tuesday, was batting like 222 in his last 7 games. Those are things that major league hitters need to figure out, right? That's what separates you between being a triple-A-er, a 4-A-er, and a major leaguer. Having the ability to bounce back at that level. I'm not going to say it's easy to get to the major league level. Of course it's not. But guys get to the major league level, have a lot of hype behind them. And then, look at Joe Adell, right? He got up to that level, and for 2 or 3 years, literally just treaded water, right? He wasn't the best. He got up for a quick swig of coffee, would get set down, would get injured, whatever it is. And then last year, we kind of saw Joe Adell take that next step, right? And this year, we're starting to see Joe Adell take a step from last year. Is it a little late? Maybe. But he's finally proving that, hey, you know what? I can be a major league type player. I'd like to see him improve a little bit more defensively. So people are going to call me an idiot. Hey, Fernando, last year in right field, he was a Gold Glove, finalist. Okay, great. But this year in center, he hasn't been on that same plane. So I'd like to see him get a little more consistent defensively, and he's starting to. And before I say, hey, Joe Adell needs to be a piece to this puzzle, but so far I like what I'm seeing out of him. We've already talked ad nauseum this year about Shanuel, O'Hoppe, Neto, those guys now being part of this long-term. Clearly they are. They've proven that they are. They've even proven that they're major league style hitters. I don't worry about those guys at all. I'd like to see one of those type of guys make the All-Star game this year. If Trout's going to get into the All-Star game off of the sympathy vote, okay, great, whatever. I would prefer that to happen next year. It's going to be in Philadelphia next year. That's 45 miles away from Millville. So if you got to get Mike Trout in there to sell some jerseys or whatever, great. But don't take the ability to get into the All-Star game away from these young guys who have earned it, those guys who want to be there. I know that Trout wants to be there this year because he was really bummed he didn't make it last year. Obviously, we have friends in the organization. He wants Beckham, his oldest son, to go with him, and he wants to share that with him. So I know that he wants to get to that level, but Trout, you have not earned it this year. And I don't want you to take it away from some of these other guys who have earned it. I'm trying to think if we have any pitchers besides Jansen who should be there.
Kikuchi's numbers.
Kikuchi's. Yeah.
Robert was reeling that off last night. He's like, throw the wins, losses away. He's top 3 or top 5 in strikeouts and all that other stuff. So, that would be a guy I wouldn't mind seeing there for the Angels. He could take that Anderson role, which is basically if they needed a long pitcher to go a couple innings, if it was tied, May they bring him in so that way, we don't waste him in the All-Star game for, I wouldn't mind him. It's for me, since the game doesn't matter no more. I don't care as long as they're represented. I don't necessarily have to see them play. So, and as far as Trout's concerned, I'm with you. I think he should be in Philly next year as the sympathy vote, but this year, man, I would love to see Joe Adell in there. I know Zach Neto is probably going to get penalized because of April, but because I think his numbers would be fantastic if he played all the entire season. But man, I really love what Joe Adell's done. I mean, I can't say enough about how he's changed his approach and how he's more patient and not striking out as much, because he was a strikeout king even in the beginning of the year. It seemed like after April, he found it, dude. He just found it.
Yeah, Joe Adell definitely deserves his flowers. He's adjusted at the major league level. And once again, that's what you want to see out of guys, because there was a long while there where you and I, when we first started this network, we're talking about, this guy's probably a 4A type guy.
Yeah.
Because we would send him down and in Salt Lake, he'd be hitting 30 home runs. You know what I mean? He would be launching them out. I mean, I remember he got sent down and God, what's that the name of the team that plays in Las Vegas? The Aviators?
Yes.
Yeah. So whatever organization they're from. Yeah, Joe Adell got sent there and he hit like a 500-foot piss missile. And it was literally like the day after he got sent down. It's just like, look, this guy's such a 4A guy. We called him up and he couldn't hit water if he falls off a boat. And then you send him down there and all of a sudden he's hitting 500-foot shots. There's really not that big of a difference where you're batting .087 at the major league level, and then you're going down to AAA. All of a sudden, you're batting 400 or 500. And everybody was saying, "Well, Joe Adell, it's such a mental thing." You know what I mean? It's in his mental. Okay, but finally, he came up, proved last year that he can be a power hitter, and now this year he's proving that not only can he still hit for power, that wasn't a fluke, but he's now able to be a productive hitter. I had said that Nolan Chanwell is a true major league hitter, right? You and I have had conversations off air before about our favorite players. You and I like similar hitters. We both like guys like Tony Gwynn, who just slapped the ball, right?
Yeah.
They were pure professional hitters. Albert Pujols in his days with the St. Louis Cardinals before he came here was the dictionary definition of the perfect baseball player, right? Never did too much. For anybody who ever had the privilege of watching Albert Pujols take batting practice, the guy literally barely touched the ball and that thing would fly. Yep. I used to see him take batting practice in Tempe, Arizona, and he would literally pick one spot in left field and he would hit 10 straight balls there. And when I mean 10 straight balls, there would literally be a pile of baseballs where he was aiming for. This guy was such a calculated hitter. And that style of baseball is dead. Unfortunately for Pujols, he had those injury issues, which I do think were detrimental to his Angel career. But nobody can ever take away from his talent. And I don't think there's any Angels fans who would ever say like, oh, well, Albert Pujols wasn't talented when he was here. He was injured. That was the thing. But, his days in St. Louis, this guy was a freak of nature, right? Pure hitter, power hitter, played baseball the right way. There was never any allegations against him, on the juice in an era where people were still juicing. But all that to say, I would love to see Joe Adell become that type of hitter. Now, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to compare Pujols with the Cardinals to Joe Adell right now. But what I'm saying is we're starting to see Joe Adell make those type of adjustments. He went from having that high leg kick to a toe tap. And now his toe tap has changed again. And now he's able to keep his bat in long enough to adjust to pitches that he wasn't previously able to hit, because it used to be very one type of swing, very much like Cole Calhoun used to have, very much like Matt Thaiss used to have. And now Joe Adell's actually a proven major league hitter. I never even considered him being an all-star. I don't think he's going to get to that level this year, unfortunately for him. But the fact that you're able to make a take like, hey, Joe Adell could be an all-star and not get laughed off the podcast, that's a good sign of a young guy in an organization that doesn't have any legitimate long-term outfield pieces right now. Because when you're thinking about, the next 2 years here, you still have one more year of Ward out in the outfield. You obviously have Trout here for the next 7 years or so, I think it is. But you don't know what you're going to get out of him on the twilight of his career. And after that, you have guys like Nelson Rada who are a possibility, but still super young. So if Joe Adell can be here for 2 more years, 3 more years, to ride out his arbitration days before hitting free agency and actually help this team contend next year and the year after that, where we're really hoping that this window is actually going to open up for this team. That's good for us. That's good for him. And who knows? Maybe next year we're talking about, hey, Joe Adell, a third straight year being a good major leaguer. Maybe we should work out an extension for this guy, because I'm not ready to have that conversation just yet. I think it'd be foolish to give Joe Adell an extension right now. But, we're not too far from the days of talking about guys like Neto, Shanuel, Ohapi getting extensions. Look what happened for the Braves. They locked up their young core. Unfortunately, it hasn't really worked out for them. Acuna's been injured. Who are the other guys? Ozuna. Some of these other guys haven't really been able to prove it because they haven't won another World Series. But I'll take a step back for a second.
No, they got that World Series, but I'll say this though. I wouldn't lock him up anyway this year. I mean, obviously, or next year, they'd have to get one more year solid out of Adell, because you want to get the money off the books with number 6. So you get that off the books, then we'll talk contract if he beefs up and does a good season next season as well. But if you look at the comparison, I wanted to show you real quick. So for the Angels, a WAR 1.2 WAR plus for Taylor Ward, a 1.0 for Joe Adell. Plate appearances, Taylor Ward's got 80 more, but you have 34 to 49 runs. Taylor Ward leads that. 71 to 64 hits. Taylor Ward leads that. Doubles 20 to 9. Taylor Ward leads that. He's got 2 triples, but 20 home runs, 18 RBIs to Joe Adell's 18. Ward's got 58 RBIs. Adell's got 47. The walks are in favor of Taylor Ward, 34 to 19, but the strikeouts, 97 to just 67 for Joe Adell. That usually, last year Adell would be right there with Taylor Ward. He's brought that down big time. The batting average is in favor of Joe Adell. He's now batting 250, raising his average 55 points. His on-base percentage is 322. Taylor Ward's is 221 and 296. Slugging percentage is better for Adell, and his OPS is 818. So, you do the math, man. I mean, they're similar type players right now, but I really think that, Joe Adell, if we get another free agent outfielder to be like, okay, we're moving on from Ward, I'm fine with Adell staying, if he's continuing to put up this kind of, because we're not looking for the Mike Trout numbers from him. Anything that he does is gold, and in a projection of what he's got so far, you're talking about a guy who's probably going to finish with about maybe 30 home runs, 85 RBIs. You're fine with that, right?
Yeah. So when Joe Adell was drafted, him and Brandon Marsh were continuously compared, right? We all remember those days. Brandon Marsh is obviously with the Phillies now, and he started to regress a little bit the last year or two. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
I still wish we would have had a guy like Brandon Marsh, just because we still need, that outfield legitimacy.
Yeah.
I'm not upset we got Logan Ohapi, though. I mean, that's kind of a win-win for both teams. But people were saying, like, oh, well, Joe Adell is going to be the better player. Joe Adell is going to be the better player. The Angels obviously agreed too, which is probably why they sent Brandon Marsh. I don't know if the Phillies just didn't want Joe Adell, and they were like, oh, this guy's going to suck. And then we were like, cool, well, Joe Adell's our guy now, right? So the Angels gave Joe Adell the opportunity in 2020, and he's just kind of lingered around for the first 3 years of that. Was injured, would show flashes of greatness, would get sent down, and then last year proved that he belonged here. This year, now he's really proven that he belongs here. 250 is great. 250 is great out of a guy like Joe Adell. If you would have told me, hey, this guy's going to be a major league caliber hitter who's going to hit you 30 home runs by the end of the year, hell, 25 home runs by the end of the year. He's going to drive you in about 70 to 80. He's not going to be a defensive liability. We make fun of Joe Adell a lot, right? We tease him because he'll have all these plays where he jumps up at the wall and the ball jumps, the ball bounces out of his glove, right? But you also have to be athletic enough to even have the opportunity to make that play, right?
Yeah.
When was the last time that Taylor Ward body was completely over the wall? He caught the ball for half a second and the ball jumped out of his glove. Taylor Ward doesn't even attempt that. Taylor Ward has been a defensive liability for years. For years. He is one of the most mediocre left fielders I have seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Notice that nobody gives him credit for what he does defensively because you shouldn't. He takes no risks out there. Look, I can live with a guy trying to dive to make a diving catch if the situation presents itself, right? There's a runner on second and or there's a runner on first and second. The ball's in the gap. Taylor Ward gets there, which A, doesn't happen either because he doesn't have good range. And B, he's trying to save the game by making a catch like that. You know what? If you overestimate, underestimate, and you just miss the ball, am I going to be frustrated that you missed it? Yeah, of course. But I understand that sometimes high risks mean high reward, right? There was 2 outs. You would have gotten your team out of the inning. There's a time and a place where you have to try to make those defensive plays. And Ward doesn't even try. The guy only dives on catches that are guaranteed outs. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. You sit in left field. The guy will dive when he doesn't need to. The ball's like 2 feet over to his right, and there's 2 outs in the innings, and he's like diving. It's like, bro, why'd you even dive? You were right there.
Mm-hmm.
But when the situation presents itself and you need to try to rob a home run and you need to make a dive to just try to save the game, he doesn't do it. He lets the ball bounces and he takes the safe, he'll let the runners advance. Maybe lets a run score because he doesn't want to cost the team. Okay, great. You're not that kind of defender. But why are you in the outfield then? Taylor Ward has always been a guy without a position. He was drafted as a catcher, came up the system as a catcher. And at that time, the Angels were like, whoa, we have too many catchers. We had Martin Maldonado. We had Carlos Perez. We had Dylan Bundy, if any of you guys remember that name. So I don't know if the organization just thought we had too many catchers because we had Matt Dice also. And Matt Dice also was a catcher. We drafted back-to-back catchers, and everyone's like, why are we drafting so many catchers? We're tired of catchers. Well, we have Mike Scioscia, who was a catcher, and he loves catchers. And then they shoved Taylor Ward at, third base for a while?
Yeah.
And then they shoved him at first base, and then they made him an outfielder. The guy's just kind of never had a position, which also says a lot about you defensively. Look, not everyone is a major league caliber defender, right? It is very hard to play defense at the major league level. Taylor Ward has proven that. But maybe Taylor Ward needs to get traded to a team that needs a DH. There are teams out there that do need a DH. The Angels would never trade, or at least probably shouldn't trade with guys in their division. But look at Texas. Texas needs a DH. You're not going to make a deal with the Rangers because they're very comparable to the Angels right now in terms of their record.
Yeah.
And you don't, once again, want to help your rivals. But, unfortunately, the Rangers are in division because they have pretty good prospects. You'd probably be able to get something out of Taylor Ward. You and I are still on the trade Taylor Ward bandwagon. You've never been a giant Taylor Ward guy. I like Taylor Ward. He's a Fresno guy, right? I'm from Central California originally. So I have a soft spot in my heart for that. He's from Indio. He's from not that far away. That's still kind of Angels country, But I think the time is now to move on from Taylor Ward as we approach the deadline. The Angels really, really need to be realistic on what they can get for Taylor Ward, what they should get from Taylor Ward. Find a good, viable trade partner and get what you can get from him. He's not part of the long-term puzzle here. Do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree because, when I look at and I just think about defensively, for what he puts up offensively, we could find a player. So it's not like he's a unicorn or something that's going to be difficult to replace. My thing with Ward is I can think of Juan Rivera, and Juan Rivera was a pudgy guy. Very not the fastest dude, but for some reason he made plays and he fit what Sosha wanted him to be until he didn't anymore. And Sosha was like, okay, you're the DH now. But for a time period, he played in right field, he played in left field, and he made diving catches. And I can remember him throwing guys out at home. And I can remember him making those diving catches. I can't do that with Taylor Ward. I remember all the times he misses the cutoff guy. Or instead of throwing to second base to hold the base runner from going to second on a single, he throws to third when he had no chance to get the guy out at third. And that's the kind of thing that bothers the hell out of me about him, because the whole WAR thing is a stupid stat, because then he should be minus with all of his defensive plays out there. He doesn't give you anything, and he doesn't give you those sacrifices when you need him. So he's definitely a player that, yeah, he's producing for the Angels. Yes, he's come through and he's helped them out in certain games. That's why I still root for him. However, in the long run, if you're looking to better this team and get better, he doesn't look like a guy who's fitting in with these young guys, even though he's not that old. But he doesn't look like a guy that I'm like, hey, this guy's got to remain on the team because of his presence and what he can provide. Like Mike Trout, on one hand, he's going to be here whether you like it or not. You mentioned his contract. But a guy like Taylor Ward, it's like, okay, we can afford to move on from him. We could get younger at this spot. Maybe Kyron Paris takes the next step. Maybe this guy takes the next step, or maybe we bring in a free agent who's younger, stuff like that. But yeah, I would be very, very disappointed, and I've said it many times, Fernando, if they do not trade him or flip him at the deadline.
There are teams that want him. You've said for years. I mean, the Pirates have been rumored to want him for a while.
Cincinnati, I heard, is in the mix too.
Yeah, the Padres. A lot of people are saying, why doesn't he go to San Diego? I mean, it's another team that needs some help in the outfield right now, or help with their DH position. So there are trade partners out there. So, like I said, will I be a little sad that Taylor Ward's gone? Yes. Is that sadness going to take away from the fact that I want him to go elsewhere and us get something in return that could help us next year and the year after that? No. I mean, baseball's a business. You have to get better. I like Taylor Ward for what he is. I've said for years before the other guys took my take, if Taylor Ward is the guy, you're in trouble. If Taylor Ward is a guy, you're in good shape. There's a lot of teams out there who need a guy, and they acknowledge that Taylor Ward can be that guy because he is a guy. He's not the guy. He should not be the face of your franchise, and if he is, you are already cooked, my friend. Call yourself the Colorado Rockies because you are over. But if you're in a situation where, this guy is going to be your 6, 7 in your lineup, this guy is going to protect your the protection for your cleanup guy, then you're in good shape. If you don't need this guy to do much defensively, or if you can sacrifice him as just a DH, you're in a good position. If Taylor Ward was our full-time DH, I'd be great. I'd be happy. Because we would have him out in the outfield, or out of the outfield. We would have somebody else there who is a competent major league defender. But unfortunately, that's just not the case for us. You have to play the hand you're dealt. And Taylor Ward might make the team better right here, right now. But he's only got this year and next year. And after that, he's going to go somewhere else because the Angels aren't going to give him what he's going to want. Look, Taylor Ward is probably a $15 to $20 million a year outfielder. And some people are going to understand and agree, and some people are going to be like, Fernando, you're an idiot, but that wouldn't be my first time hearing that. But look, for a guy that's going to hit roughly 30 home runs, he's always in that 25 to 30 range. He's going to hit you about 80 RBIs. In today's baseball, that's worth about 15 to 20 million, right?
It is. He'll get paid.
Yeah, he's going to get paid by somebody. And a smart team shouldn't pay him that, but somebody will. I mean, there are so many bad contracts. Look, you mean to tell me that Juan Soto is worth more than number 17?
No.
I mean, come on. That's crazy. Look, I like Juan Soto. I'm not going to buy a Juan Soto jersey. Maybe if it was like 80% off. But, I'm not going to go out and buy a Juan Soto jersey. If it falls on my lap, okay, great. But Juan Soto is not a better marketing guy. He's not a better baseball player than number 17. But the point is, there's somebody out there who will always pay you. Taylor Ward's agent will find that team. They're going to go to that team. Honestly, I can see Taylor Ward go to a team like who's a team who's not afraid to pay? Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle's in that range. They'll pay 15 to 20 million. They're not big ballers. They're not going to spend 30 to 40 million on the player, but 15 to 20 is attainable for Seattle.
Toronto.
So, yeah, Toronto. Yeah. I mean, look what they just did for Santander, and that guy's been terrible for them, unless he's playing the Angels. So watch out for this series because Santander is all of a sudden going to be killing us just out of nowhere. The guy's batted, less than 200 all season. All of a sudden, he's getting about 300 this series. But I digress. The point is, let's be realistic on what we are. Taylor Ward is not part of the long-term pieces here. He's just not. And that's fine. But find the guy who's going to click in here. Find the guy that's going to help this Angels team compete this year. Because once again, the Angels don't even necessarily need a win this year. You and I are happy that they're winning. But if the Angels miss the playoffs this year by 2 or 3 games, sure, I'm going to think about some of those Ray Montgomery, situations. I'm going to think about some of those Ron Washington pitching decisions. But I'm not going to be upset that this team just missed the playoffs like I was in years past. I'm going to be happy that this team took a step forward because we saw what we got last year. We got almost 100 losses.
Yeah.
This is a team that, for better or worse right now, believes they are competing. And they are. On paper, they're not out of it. So let's not change the puzzle. Let's not change the equation too much. Let's not get rid of everyone. Let's not do a fire sale. You know what? This is the first time in probably the history of this podcast that you and I aren't calling for a fire sale, because normally every trade deadline is, hey, trade everyone with value. But right now it's, let's be smart about this. If Tyler Anderson's going to get you some phone calls, take the deal. He's a free agent after this year. Someone's going to pay him. It's probably not going to be here, and we don't need him here. We have Sam Alderete. We have Clausen. We have other guys to look forward to. We don't need Anderson after this year, especially not with what you're getting out of Kikuchi this year.
Yeah.
Trade Kenley Jansen if he's getting you some good offers. I like Kenley Jansen. On MLB The Show, I just signed Kenley Jansen to an extension because he signed for like 3 years, $5 million. Who is going to take that? He would never sign that in real life. But the point is, if you have the ability to move on from him and get you some bullpen pieces to help this year, next year, the year after that. Who are some other guys? I don't think Luis Rengifo is going to get you too much. I know that's wishful thinking. A lot of people are saying, hey, move on from Rengifo. He's a free agent after this year. If you get a phone call for him, great. I mean, look, a couple years ago, we traded Ian Kinsler for Ty Buttrey. And Ty Buttrey only got us like 2 or 3 years before he retired, and now he's out of baseball. But, I mean, whatever. If Luis Rengifo is going to get you a bullpen on for 2 or 3 years, great. Take it. But that's what I got right now.
Yeah, depth piece. Couple things as far as defensively in the outfield. It hasn't hurt us yet as far as like one of those ones where we got to get a play at the plate to keep the game in our favor or keep it from losing the game. We don't have the best outfield arms. Obviously, you got Noodle arm in Taylor Ward. You got Adele, who has an arm, but it's not accurate. I've seen him overthrow the catcher. And then right field, Soler's a mess. The only one I think right now that's best on the team is Campero. Campero has a very nice, accurate arm.
Yep.
Other than that, and that's why he's a defensive replacement. But I think getting a Campero would be the guy that like a numbered Rengifo could get you, a nice depth piece. And as far as the future is concerned, we talked about the beginning of the season, everybody inside of this network and outside of this network, when you bring up the Angels and projections, it was 4th place. It was low to mid 70s in wins. If you can finish the season just at 81-81, that's an 18-game swing. That's a dramatic swing. If you can finish above 500 by just 2 or 3 games, that's an enormous milestone and a very good, directional point for next year. And then need I say it, Fernando, me and you and the rest of this network will actually have that thing called expectations for next year. We'll actually feel like, hey, we're going to contend this year. We're trending the right way, and we're going to be expecting, a good free agent signing or 2 or 3. and we're going to expect, some more progression from this team. So, to me, Fernando, when some people come on my post game show and say, no, man, we need to sell out and try to get there this year. If it's right there, it's been too long. I think that's the worst possible attitude, because again, you brought it up many times. We mortgaged the future last year. We can't do that again. This is the time that, we got to just be a little, I know it sucks, but be patient. Try to make those low key moves, like you mentioned, to get some return. You don't want to let these guys walk for free.
Yep.
If you're able to do that, again, everything points towards next year. And I think I'm good with that. As much as I wish and desire to have this team in the postseason, I can wait one more year if we're seriously contenders next year.
Yeah, I can wait one more year if it means the glory days will be here again, right?
Correct.
Look, like if we sneak our way into the playoffs this year, and look, we get swept, I promise you, I will die a happy man. I will go buy the 2025, postseason hats like the Dodger fans, and they have their little consolation prize for every World Series they've lost that they were in.
Shit, hey, real quick, we could be the Clippers and raise a postseason banner just for that. I would be cool with that.
Well, they'll put the little flags out there in the poles in left field.
There you go.
But all that to say, hey, if the Angels happen to sneak their way in the playoffs, great. I will do whatever I can to fly out there and be with my people in Anaheim, and we will celebrate to the cows come home.
Yep.
But the point is, let's not lose sight that the Angels are close. Call me crazy, but the Angels are truly close to competing for a legitimate stretch of time, right? Let's ride the wave. Let's do it the right way. Perry, you're not listening, but you should be. And you need to make the right moves to make this team competitive for years to come. I don't need the Angels to make the postseason this year. I need the Angels to play meaningful games. I need Shanuel, Neto, Ohapi to play good, meaningful games. I need Kikuchi. I need Soriano. Hell, I need Detmers to go in there and, prove that, hey, this team is taking not only one step in the right direction, we took 5 steps in the right direction. It's September. The games still matter. Angel Stadium's still rocking. People still have a little bit of hope. That's good. That's what this team needs. This team needs to face every single team's best pitcher, because that's going to make them better next year. And if September rolls around and we're mathematically out of it, and a team like, the Yankees, who are in the postseason, guaranteed, are throwing, Todd out there because, who cares? We're already in the playoffs. This team's out. That's not going to help these young guys. What's going to help them is the Yankees being like, oh, hey, we're still in the thick of it, or us playing Seattle for that last postseason spot. And they have Kirby going out there, and we have Kikuchi going out there, and these young guys are going to get a taste of every at-bat. This game matters. And even if it doesn't work out for them this year, you know what? They still had those meaningful at-bats. Hey, we saw Logan Ohapi go out there with 2 strikes in the bottom of the 9th inning, and he was 0-2, and he worked the count full. Oh, man, he struck out to end the game, but we were so close. We were right there. Look at Moneyball. In the movie Moneyball, the owner was talking to Brad Pitt's character, obviously Billy Bean, about, hey, we were right there. We were so close. You know what? That is things that front offices look at. That is a step in the right direction. That is your young guys learning how to be a major leaguer. Because I'm sorry, hitting a garbage time home run in September when we're 15 games out doesn't make this team better. What does is these guys learning what it's like to face the cream of the crop, learning what it's like to have a good at bat, just to give the guy behind them a chance. In baseball, the most important thing is letting the guy behind you have an opportunity. And that's what's so hard about this game, right? This isn't basketball where you can take the ball and change the narrative, right? You hate LeBron, but there was a long period of time there where LeBron James would go to a team. He'd be like the only guy on that team, and they wouldn't win, but they'd make it to the finals, right? Because in basketball, one guy can change the narrative. This isn't basketball. This is baseball. More often than not, It's not your at bat that's going to change the course of the game. Your job is to get on base because the guy behind you is the winning run. You're the tying run, or maybe now you're the tying run on base, right? In baseball, you have to have the courage to not be the hero. You have to have the wherewithal to not swing out of your shoes, because what's the point of hitting a solo shot? Great, your team's still down by 1. It would have been better if you would have gotten a double, because now the momentum's still there. The guy behind you now has a chance to be the hero. You're still the tying run on second base, but now the guy doesn't need to hit the ball over the wall. He has to either A, get on base, A, drive the ball right down the line, and now you can score from second base. Now he's on second base. It's a tie game, blah, 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 blah. Anybody, you guys watch baseball if you're on this network. But you get what I'm saying. I want these guys to have meaningful at-bats at the end of the year, and that starts with, hey, let's build for the future. Who cares about this year? If we make the playoffs, great. If we don't, as long as these guys are getting that major league experience, we are okay. It's going to be okay. And Todd and I are going to be happy to talk about a team that, you know what? They made it to the end. They might have fizzled out, but hey, these guys were still playing good baseball down to the wire, and that's good.
And to feed off of that, I have a vision of, like, say, for instance, if the Angels were alive in September and they did have that Seattle series, whether it's with a week to go or less, and Seattle is still like holding the cards, so to speak, and the Angels were right there. Sorry.
Got to get you some cough drops, buddy.
Yeah, I do. I might have to
check out our new sponsor, Ricola.
Trying to finish this comment. But say, for instance, they're right there, and say the game doesn't go their way, Seattle's in the lead, and it looks like they're going to be officially eliminated. Something to take out of that would be a positive in a very negative situation is, did the Angels go with guys 3 days in a row out of the pen to try to win games? Did a starter go on 4 days rest, 3 days rest? And even if it didn't happen, but did you see the reactions of Zach Neto? He's hanging over the bar, looking at the other team celebrating, holding that, recording that, and being like, okay, we're going to get these jerks next year. Like I want to see that hunger from this team. I want to see them win games in September, be pumped up and fighting to the very end. And if you see that from this particular team, that's not only going to send a message to this crackhead organization, but guys like Perry might be like, hey, man, we're going to go. I'm going to do my best to talk to our crackhead owner and get this team the very best players, because I see something here. And I think if we can see it as fans in late, August and September, then maybe, just maybe, this organization will put a little funding behind this team. And next year we can go into it where a year Houston's going to get another year worse. They're losing a lot of free agents. Seattle's always that, what are they going to do next? Texas has a bunch of problems. Vegas is in transition. So the division could be even more wide open next year. So yeah, that's where I have a lot of optimism if they do things right, not only from the draft first, but to the trade deadline, and then how they finish the season. Because again, next year, Fernando, I would love to be starting next year's podcast, 2026 with a roundtable like we would do, but excited for the season. Like last year, the year before, it's always doom and gloom. It's always, how many losses are we going to have? I want to talk winning baseball. And if those three things fall in line, next year could be very exciting.
Yeah, thanks for pushing through that, Todd. I can tell you're struggling, man. Thanks.
I'm done.
Yeah, we're wrapping up here, guys. But yeah, for the first time in a while, and I think our audience is probably going to echo the same sentiment, I'm actually excited most of the time when Angels games come on. I took it upon myself when I was on vacation on a cruise ship in the middle of Alaska. Hey, the Angels game on. I wasn't able to watch a lot of it, but I was able to, tune in here and there every single game for a little bit. And I was excited to do that, right? In years past, I would have been excited to step away for a bit. But it's nice to watch some competent baseball. You know what? This team isn't perfect, right? This is a young team. They're still making mistakes. I can live with that. I'm okay with that. And I actually celebrate that. I can celebrate a young guy making a defensive error as long as the next game I see an improvement being made. And you know, you cheer for that for these young guys. And for the most part, these young guys are proven to do that, right? I tend to not see the same mistakes twice. And the point is, compared to last year, I've seen a lot of positive progress. We all have. Look at the record, right? This team is treading water despite having Lamont Wade Jr. out there, despite the bullpen being essentially in shambles, right?
Mhm.
Guys, Reed Detmers is our setup guy. If I would have told you before the season starts, hey, Reed Detmers is going to be our eighth inning guy, you would have said, what the hell? What the hell, Yate? What the Halle Berry? You probably don't get that reference, Todd.
No, I thought you were referencing Lombardi.
Oh, yeah. No. See, this is how you can always tell on social media when you see a tweet or something, when it's Todd or when it's I. I'm not saying that I'm a hip young guy either, but I get some of the hip young references.
What the hell's going on out here?
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, dude, this team is starting to take some positive steps in the right direction. I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to actually turn on these Angels games right now and watch some good baseball. It's not all good, right? And it won't be all good until the glory days are back. But it's good enough where I can watch and not get frustrated the entire time. I get frustrated with the managerial move. I mean, 2 days ago, I'm sure you guys saw us going off on the fan base was jumping on too. Right, you know, Ray Montgomery, what are you doing? But yesterday was pretty good. So I can live with that. But yeah, man, that's all I got today. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in. You know, thanks to Todd for sticking it out. The Glizzy Gobbler over here, as people are saying. For everyone out there, have a safe 4th of July. Have a fun 4th of July. Don't blow your hand off. You know, enjoy time with your friends, family, whoever you might be hanging out with. Maybe it's just a chill day and you're just going to watch some baseball at home, whatever your day brings. Enjoy the day. Give us a like, comment, subscribe. All that really helps us. Follow us on social media. Todd Chestnut. Follow us on social media at Angels in the Infield. Follow our friends, you know, Catella Chronicles, Angels Cowboy, Vince, you know, everyone, really, Hitty Umbrella. We really appreciate the love and support that we get from you guys. And yeah, that's all we got. On behalf of all of us here at Halos in the Infield, have a great and safe 4th of July. And we'll see you guys back here next time.